So I'm just going to do a bit of a run through from this first game against Sheriffs. I know it's not really ideally you would want one of the later games, but they weren't recorded, so I'm going to go through this one. So straight off the bat, they're going to do a really nice, aggressive, quick start, and Ferguson do a really nice counter. I know he gets hit, but whatever. But it's something I'll cover later on. Is when this player had released, rather than getting starstruck and going here, Ferg's identified that James has come up to go with him, and he's released at him as well. So Ferg, rather than going for this hit, like again, maybe because it's one of the more aggressive players, yes, that's a situation where you would be willing to take that direct throw rather than coming here. But he's done a really nice job there, got the 1-for-1. Decent dodge afterwards, obviously doesn't end up mattering. But that's a really nice job. And then again here, John, really nice pressure. Done a full running counter on here. The only thing I would say is I would actually suggest that John takes that throw, especially with these two players being lined up the way they are. If this front player dodges and gets out the way, then the back player's got a really tough time of reacting, and it's just pure instinct. So John's done a really good job covering this and pushing all the way back. I would actually suggest that he does throw there, but it's one of those situations I'm not going to complain at someone actually keeping control, especially as we'll all come to later on. So this is something that I'm going to talk about quite a lot throughout this analysis, really, and it's this line. And you'll see it quite a few times. Certain players like John and JT consistently throughout the video are very good at getting all the way up and making sure they're either faking in that neutral zone high up or putting that pressure on to get a really nice aggressive throw. But there's a lot of times throughout the video, and not just in this instance, we'll talk about later, where players are dropping off a little bit early because what it forces to where Henry's eyes aren't focused on, they aren't looking over there. They're looking straight ahead, looking at JT, which means that his fake slash throw is no longer as effective. Especially here, this player is not even looking at Dan, he's looking over here. These players will be looking this way. So he basically puts a situation where these players have a 50-50 chance of who's going to throw and who's not. Because this is a really nice, synced up, aggressive line that you would like to see, whereas Dan's backed off. I understand the reason that Dan's backed off, because this player has come aggressive and kind of put that little bit of pressure which has forced Dan to back off, but you'd still really ideally want to see getting forward, getting to that aggressive place. Again, I mean, you ideally would have wanted the throw down the middle, but still a really nice throw there from JT. So this is really nice. This kind of aggressive running counter, potentially a little bit too fast in terms of if Sam had just stood his ground, he could have got the hit. He did stand his ground for initiating what I'll call that fencing range. I'll come up with a better name of it eventually, but kind of fencing range where like this is the death area. Anyone gets any closer out of the way and someone's going to throw. So Dan immediately enters that kind of throwing range and releases a really nice shot onto Warvel. And I would say that Wolf probably a little bit too didn't make his mind up. It's something I've talked to certain people recently about, like having that commitment either way. Are you going to defend it? Or are you going to be aggressive in that middle ground where you don't know what you're doing? He's left his lower half open. It's a really nice shot there from Dan. But they've both really done a really nice run in and run down that offense, which is something that doesn't happen later in the video, which I think changes a fair few things. But yeah, really nice there. Nice block. So, in this situation, what's happened is they come up as a 3. They've got the block. What you really want to happen here is these two players to communicate and decide what's going to happen next. But a lot of times what happens, especially in the 3s I've noticed, is where the communication's not quite there. So both players have just stood there looking straight ahead, and I assume what's happened is they've gone with that original call. What you do is you've got the player in here who's now released the pre-throw. He had loads of time to decide what he's going to do next and set himself. And then Sean's gone for the single, which I believe misses. But what you would have wanted to happen is these two take a step back, communicate, right, let's throw at number 2, and they've gone for that throw. So that's something to look at in the future. So again, this is really nice, that communication. So that's completely fine what John's done there. Dan's got a really nice counter, one you can happy for him to take the single on. It's really nice. What I'd probably suggest here is that both players go for the double. They've gone really fast up the court, a really aggressive counter, looking to be dangerous. So that doubles on with this player not having a ball. That double's there. But what's not what happens. So Dan's gone to go for the single here, which again is completely fine. He's not got a ball, he's vulnerable. John's locking this player down. But what actually happens is John calls a stop to the counter, and that communication's completely fine. Having that moment where you go, let's stop there, let's reset, let's just absorb the balls. The problem that happens sometimes is this player's ran up to where Dan is, but this other winger's stopped here and then gone stop on the counter. Which what happens if this player does stop, he's in a really vulnerable position. If this player had the ball, he can go back at him and do something. But John's done the right thing there, where he's ran the full length and then called a stop. He's given plenty of time for Dan to stop, and they communicated, so it's really positive. So yeah, really nice line, everyone's in sync. Bit staggering's completely fine, can third timing off, but it's really important to make sure we're getting into that top end of the neutral zone. A little bit in contrast to that, the middle players dropped a little bit. Yeah, they've both stepped in. I think it's just the middle player needs to be a bit more trusting of their own block and put something in. If you're going for a 4-ball, you've got 4 balls and you're going to throw 3, you really need to be thinking throw first. Dobby's done the right thing there. Just got to throw first and throw through it and get that hit. It's when people start to stagger and delay and look for the block first and then throw. It's when balls come in late and people get caught. Again, good down the line, but all in that aggressive quadrant. This is where it becomes a problem. So we're going to watch up. Already see that Ferg's dropped off a lot because he's seen this player come up front. This player's not really done anything. They flung their arm in the air. More of a threat towards JT than anyone else. But you'll see that JT and John have gone really high up court again. Whereas Ferg's in that delay. I guess Ferg's anticipating the pre-throw, looking to come back. But because of that, again, you're put in a situation where those two are looking here. These two are looking here, he's looking this way, he's not even worrying about Ferg. So Ferg's kind of eliminated himself from that pressure situation, apart from coming in late. But because he's coming late, this player already doesn't have to worry about Ferg being the front of court, ready to do a standing counter and just stand his grounds. He's kind of opened himself up to this kind of back and forth. So here, I talked earlier where Ferg did really, really well on the quick start at the very beginning, where this player's gone for the throw and Ferg's gone to retaliate. Now again, it does come down to who you're against. If this is the best player on their team, 100% you got to commit. You've got to take that 1-for-1. You know you're going to get hit by this middle player. You just got to go for it. But in this situation now, again, I'm looking for Ferg to maybe either do his one step a little bit further back, only fractionally, just to give himself a bit more chance of survival, or to do a full run in and push up to here or here to really put a bit more pressure on. Again, it depends on what they do, but because Ferg does his one step from there, he's opened himself up for that counter, and he's got a really good throw on number 42. So again, if it's their star player and you need to get them off court, that's completely the right thing to do. But he's opened himself up to a free counter. So what John's gone and done then is he's seen Ferg release this way. So Ferg's thrown, they've released. It's now a 1-for-1 in this situation. Normally, I would suggest that this player holds, because if you release there, they come back at you, and then you've got a situation where it's at best a 2-for-2. But because this player is quite far back, they're not in that neutral zone. They just kind of stood there watching What John does here is really good. So he's notified that this player is like halfway down his own course, giving him kind of that free shot where Henry's turned his body. He's not going to get a catch. He's not even looking. Doesn't know John's there. Going a really good throw. Misses in the end. But because this player is so far back, whereas typically he'd be pushing up for that counter. If he was in this range, he could. But because he's so far away, by the time he would get here, John's had trying to reset, and then Dobby's there for the cover. So this is one of those, like, there's little tiny things that can happen. John's put himself in a dangerous kind of situation. Again, in that fencing zone, you can kind of see it. The kind of distance it is kind of stays the same across all levels. In terms of how wide it is, but it becomes kind of a feeling. It's quite tough to explain. So you see this player here is in a really aggressive stance, whereas John's in more of a passive defensive. John's only option at this point, because he's in that defensive stance, to get back, but he's got to get back fast, because as this player starts to encroach, you can see the distance kind of the same. As this player really starts to encroach, and John's still in that defensive stance where he's got no support, the support's over here, there's no one else to cover him, and he's not fully committed to that block and got him back, he's opened himself up for a free throw. There's no threat from John. This player knows that John's not going to throw back at him. All he's got to worry about is just getting the hit, or getting John to at least do like a defensive heavy block, which is going to counter, going to stop John's counter. So because of that and positioning, John's opened himself up to being hit there. Now, Dan's releasing other sides. It's not great. If this was a fake, this would be really good, just to push this player back. This player's entered this space for no reason whatsoever. There's no reason to be there. So if this was a fake, it'd be really good. You push that player back, you've got him thinking, you think, right, crap, he's coming for me. But because he releases, he's quite far away. This player's not exactly close to the line. He's got loads of time to react. I mean, he's not exactly reacted well. It's more luck on his side that Dan's missed. But again, he's had that time to just try and shimmy out of the way. So if that was a fake, really good. With it being a throw, not ideal. Did I just see JT throw the ball back at the opposition? JT always coming up with new strategies, which you love to see. But what's happened because of that, JT's gone and got this ball. This play is forced to come and cover. Massive was going to go and put the pressure on here. This player is going to put the pressure on JT. This player, who you already know is a really aggressive player, is going to see the counter opportunity. So, Massive has run up. JT's got the ball. He's recovered from his mistake, but Massive's going to stop. This player is going to see that this player's come up for the cover, which is really good. You should be covering your teammates. But he's stayed too long. So because he stayed too long, his ball's not dropped or his ball's not raised, he's in that neutral position where you've not picked a side really, you just kind of stood there. This player's got a really easy opportunity, just like the John one, to go for that aggressive throw, knowing that nothing's going to come back at him. He's got his two players here to lock down that wing. He's got that free shot there. So what needed to have happened is, as soon as he's come up for that counter and Massive has backed off, this player needs to back off also, or at least raise his arm to put some pressure on number 80 here, because he's just not done anything. So again, he's in that aggressive area of the court in a neutral stance, giving the opposition a free flow, and it's just if you can block or if you can dodge in time, and unfortunately the player was not able to. What Dan does on the other side, this player for some reason, who knows why, Unga Bunga's kicked into him, he's thrown at Dan. That's a really nice block. Dan's pressing really well. Nice staggered pressing before he's released, which is great. I would have liked him probably to get a little bit higher up. Again, Massive in that neutral stance where he's not picked a side. He's not going to go super defensive. He's not going aggressive. So you know you've got that time to come up, especially if your teammates here supporting. So I would have liked to have seen Dan come into a little bit higher to get that really aggressive throw and kind of power to go and break the block. But where he throws fine. It's a really good block there for Massive. But he was throwing the ball to get the ball and then didn't go and get the ball. So would I recommend doing that? Probably not. If you're going to do it, get the ball. So nice dodge. from JT there. From JT from Dan. Again, I talked about earlier, if you're going to go, look where the ball is. So because Joe's throwing this way, he's opening himself up for this running. This team hasn't got another ball, so it's a really aggressive one step, which is fine. If he had gone straight, it would have been fine, but because he's going off ball, he's left himself really open. Dan can't really cover in this situation, he's too far back. So for Dan to cover, Dan's got to cover this whole distance, which he's not really going to be able to do. So JT's going to get thrown at here, he's just got to trust himself to dodge. So what we should have done is either done the one step a little bit further back, giving him time to get back, or he should have done a little bit more aggressive and gone straight ahead. As I said that, none of what I've just said was going to happens, so we'll just watch that again. So Dan's blocked, he's come up, he's done the right thing to cover. Realistically, this player can throw, but he's seen the threat over here and he's decided he's going to change his target. At this point, this should be where it ends. This is entering that fencing zone. Especially if you're down, you've either got to force and commit, or you just got to survive. He's done a really good job covering his teammate in a situation where none of his teammates have a ball to cover him. So Dan's come up, he's entered that. They've both gotten closer. Dan is in a more of an aggressive stance, but a little bit more of a defensive one, whereas this player's committing to getting that hit. He's up there first, and it's just a classic 1-for-1. You'd expect Dan to try and hit there and actually get the hit. Sorry, but he's entered that aggressive area, and it's just not paid off. Great catch there from Dobby. On their one, you've got to trust yourself. You've done really well. You've dodged. That's their last ball. You've got to trust yourself in this situation where they've not got one and you're down by 2 players. You've got to trust yourself to make that hit. If they get the catch, it is what it is. But you've got to trust yourself in that situation. So it's tough in that situation where this player's come up and done a really crap throw. I'm going to pause it because I'm going to talk about what's just happened. But it's tough where James has come up and done a really crap throw just to burn a ball, but you've both got pressure on the wings still. You've got 2 choices. You can either, one of you decides they're going to go at the opposite winger and just try and break the block, get the hit. So you make the hit or you don't. If you don't, you're probably dead. When being one player down, you've got to be a bit more strategic rather than a bit more aggressive. In the play it's about to happen, you've got to throw at the same person. You can't afford to throw at different targets. I don't know if it's a lack of communication or just being passed on properly, but you've got to talk and you've got to throw at the right person. Because they throw at different people, the wingers haven't had to worry about surviving the one ball. These wingers can just run up straight ahead. So what they should do here is they should double Ferg and just get that free hit. Or if this player wants to hold off Ferg and get the free hit and this one goes for Dobby, that's also an option. What Ferg does though is actually really good. He stands his ground and goes to the 1-for-1. What I'd probably suggest is I would wait a little bit more until this player's higher or like stand up there and fake and try and scare them off. From doing the counter. A lot of the times you don't need to commit for that 1-for-1. If you're standing there and you're basically threatening that if you run at me and double counter me, I'm going to take you with me, which a lot of the times can force players to back out of the counter entirely. But what he's done here is really good, going for it. Obviously he misses, but just by doing that, now he doesn't have to worry about the one player who he's able to dodge, which is really good for Ferg. Yeah, that's completely the right thing to do. So they've gone on this really aggressive. They've thrown 2 singles. They've probably not communicated that really well. Both wings have gone up really nicely, put the pressure on. As I spoke about that fencing area, Ferg really shouldn't be going any further than this. Or if he can go further than this, but he needs to slow down. Whereas Logan has got a nice, lovely open counter on these two because Ferg's closing this winger down. So what's going to happen? Logan is a really nice counter, gets a really good hit there on James. Like the distance is still the same as before. I understand why Ferg's thrown, and I can see it being a really good throw. But now you have two balls. You'd probably want to reset there. But in that initial chaos, the throw's fine. Like you can get away with it. Later in the set, maybe not. But in that initial bit, that's completely fine. He gets a hit. So I talked about it earlier at the start. And the main thing that I've noticed is this. So this player admittedly is putting a lot of pressure on, which can force this winger to drop back a bit. But what this winger's done really well is because he's broken this line, these players are only looking straight ahead of them. They're not having to worry about Sean. So Ferg's gone for the throw, and as this player's gone for the pre-throw, it's done really well. So what you need now is to Sean to come up, which he's done, and he's gone for that nice hit. He's got a really good double out of it. It's worked out well. But that's kind of power that having that aggressive stance can be, which I'm not really going to talk about it, but no one really presses into these kind of areas at the start when they're coming up with three, which is it's only your skill set. It's not you should or shouldn't. It's just something to note. Good double in, good dodge. So I can understand why, and it can be quite intimidating, but especially here, you've got to get that a little bit further up, at least the halfway line. With a player like this who's shown throughout the game to be really aggressive and fast and really deadly, I would maybe suggest that Sean's the one to go and throw if you're focusing that much on that player. But you've not really going to do much without getting past that line. Good line, unlucky on the catch, but really good because they're getting aggressive and they're throwing together and faking together. It's really off-putting for the opposition. That's really good as well. Both players pushing on the wings, even if they don't run all the way up. Just that little bit of pressure is really nice. So I spoke about it a couple of times now. That's a fine pre-throw from Tailby. Jack's just naturally more defensive of a player, but everyone else is in that kind of line, so that's fine. Open himself up for that counter, but that's the nature of pre-throws. Ferg does a really fast, aggressive counter here, where he's sort of blasted out 4 steps and he's come this whole way. But he's entered that kind of fencing range, and he's initiated the throw. Ferg probably here should be looking to throw here before this player has opportunity, because as you'll see, Ferg's released this ball miles before Jack has a chance to go back at him. So either should be throwing at the middle to try and break his block or kind of break his stance almost, or he should just pressure and then back off. It's not a bad throw on this side, it's just because now he's committed so hard and the way he's kind of thrown himself onto the floor, is give Jack that free throw. Whereas if he had thrown it in the middle, he might have had a bit more chance of surviving. And fair play for going for the catch. I would have just flay on the floor like a fish. Fair play. That's got to hurt. That's really nice on both sides there, actually. They've gone for the quick start. Ferg's done a really aggressive push back, and he's faked. And this team's gone really aggressive back at him, which is really good to see from both sides. What you'd also want is a player on this. I'm not sure where the ball is, but say the ball's on this side, you'd really want that player to at least be here, applying a lot of pressure to this player and the middle player to give Ferg a bit more of a chance on that counter. But overall, really good from both players there, on both sides. So, we've talked about that line a few times now. Where players are. You need to be getting further up, especially if you're in the middle. In the middle, you're most likely to be pre-thrown. but you'll also, if someone pre-throws you, your wingers are there to go back at them. If you're in the middle, you need to be going further up, especially at the start of a set when it's 6v6 or 5v6, whatever. That's when it comes into it. Because he's dropped off, these two players are looking at Ferg. These lot can look over here or look at Ferg, whatever. They're not looking at Sean. Sean's basically not there. That's really nice from Logan, just staying up there, putting a bit of pressure on. Maybe one less fake, just do the one fake and drop off the two fakes. He's staying up a little bit too long. I've talked about it a few times from talking about for us, but Sheriffs have been consistently throughout the game, if you watch this first half, making sure they're in line. Again, talked about in the last set, they've thrown this single ball. Ferguson a really nice, aggressive one-step, two-step counter going straight, but really maybe he wants to instead do a push, 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 push and see where Henry does, nice and slow and steady. Or if he's going to do this one step, maybe go at Henry. Again, it depends. If this person here is their best player and you're really desperate to get them out, then it's completely understandable and worth going for. But you've got to think, like, is risking getting them out worth you almost definitely dying? In this situation, especially with how Ferg's gone down, you'd probably expect Henry to get the hit there. But it's a really nice dodge from Ferg. Or not. Again, the lines, one person really far behind. It's not, I guess, with the pre-throw, it's kind of worked out. Logan's had a chance to step into his throw, and he's done a really nice job of getting a good hit from that, doing to a 1-for-1. But again, it's just 6 in those lines. On this situation, nothing's happening. In this situation where Kendall's come up to pressure the ball, Dan does a really good job, and so does Sean. I know Sean's not the ball, but it's still just making people think, making people's eyes react. Really good fake, if this was a fake. It's pressured him back instantly. You can see the kind of the fear that's put into Kendall there, making sure he wants to get back on court to survive. But because Dan releases and Kendall wasn't in a throwing position, he was just wanting to get the ball. He's not got far to travel. You can see that his hands have gone from, if it works for me, don't matter. His hands have had to travel far to get the block. And so it's just kind of a, unlucky with the ball situation, but you want to be faking there, not throwing, especially if you've got no one to cover you, and you're going to get 2 balls. With this one here, Dobby wants to be waiting for this ball to come on court, either coming over to Logan or being passed directly onto him, and if he has the ball, he can come and collect it and roll it back, or anything, but it's brave going for it, it's just not the best decision in the world. Nice dodging, good laterals. Great press on both wings. They're trying to push them back. Showing they're willing to do something. Nice shooting. Nice pressure there from Fergus. Don't want to stay up there too long, just a little bit and back off. Just going to watch that again. It's a really nice catch there. See this, that press, 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 press. Again, Dan's pressed all the way up. James is staying in that neutral stance. Ferg's locking down this side. Staying in that neutral stance, allowing Dan to get that hit through and have a much higher chance. Probably would have liked to see him get at least into the start of the neutral zone before he did it, but still, really nice press, 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 release. Great shot. Oh, great shot. Great reset. No need to go back there in that situation unless you're really going to communicate and you're going for it. Nice. Unlucky on the 3 ball, right thing to do. Just is what it is. Better accuracy, that's all you can say. 4th ball. Again, unlucky accuracy on on your 3 ball. Got to be hitting. So on this situation, this is really nice from Tailby. Really aggressive, really fast counter. It's unfortunate. This player's done the right thing by putting that pressure on Tailby, causing him to falter in his counter. Almost like he's about to break his ankles. Sean's coming up to cover. Does the right thing. He's holding. If he's going to go, he's got to go here. Throwing at that player from that position when he's staring at you, it's not as going to be as effective if you go here and get that hit. What's ultimately best now you've stopped and you've faked is you've waited for Sean to catch up, and now you both go here and you call that double. So if Tailby didn't stop on that initial flurry and that initial fast counter, going straight to the right decision, now that he's slowed and Sean's caught up, going for that double here is a great choice. I mean, in that situation, you've got to time it. Put a counter on it. Put a 3-2-1. Got to do something. Here, just don't throw. And then he throws. That's why I said it. But in that previous situation where they've gotten the hit, you've got to put a counter on it if you're going to do it. Especially for the pre-throw. If I'm in this situation, personally, people might disagree. I always throw through the pre. Because something like this can happen. But I would also say Sean's seen the pre, not thrown, and then thrown after he's seen the ball go well past. If you've stopped if you're in motion, it's not. If you're in motion, I wouldn't put it on you. I would probably put it on the middle player to throw through the block. But because they both stopped and then Sean's thrown the single, he's really given him a chance to get that hit. Logan's just got to get back. He's just got to get back. And just don't throw this ball. It's one of those ones where you know you're going to hit him. You can't miss. But you throw that ball 10 times, you're going to make the hit 9, but you're going to get caught once. And the time you get caught, it's going to ruin you. But yeah, good control. Would like to see a bit more doubles and encounters. I don't think I've seen a single double yet. But we'll see how this last set goes. Again there, and it's a bit harsh because they have entered the zone, but John's all the way up here, and the two wingers a little further back. They know who's throwing. Just be mindful. Good return from Ferg. They've done the right thing. They've pre-thrown. You've gone back. I mean, good honesty from Ferg there, to be honest. But what I'd really wanted to happen, if you're especially in a score like this where it's 8-4, you're 2 sets down, a draw is really beneficial to this team. Realistically, this guy shouldn't have thrown. I mean, the reason he threw is because Ferg wasn't posing any threat. He basically, I've got a second left to get a hit, and they're not going to do anything back to me. So in this, they've done really well. Push. You've got to throw. You're in a situation where you're down 2 sets. You've got like 3 seconds left. Yes, if you miss, he can come back at you, but the team's probably going to tell him to hold. Again, this side, you've got to be push. You've got 5 seconds. A draw is not as good for you as it is for them. And especially if you've got a full half to go and make it up if you miss and you get hit, which in this instance you don't throw and get hit, you've got a whole half to do it. I would be suggesting going for that hit. So it's unfortunate how it ends, but so the end score, other half, 10-4. There's a fair few positives to take away from that. I think one thing I didn't mention in my talk through is huddling behind the back line. I think it happened almost every single time. Was really good coming into this area and discussing what you're going to do, making that call, and then spreading out from that was really good. I think a lot of times it's, especially from certain players, a bit of a reliance almost on a 1-step or a 2-step or getting into this line and throwing rather than, I don't think I saw maybe one or two occasions where someone's pushed all the way into this neutral zone looking to get that hit. Don't think it really happens throughout. Communication is really crucial. We saw at the very start of the half, I think Dan was going on a really nice aggressive counter. Might have been the only one where someone's actually entered the neutral zone on a counter and John's called stop and the players both listens. But in other instances where the pre-throws come in and then all three players are stood there and no one person threw a singles, not great. Because you're just giving them the opportunity for a catch to be made. Overall, it was a good performance. I think there's little minor things, understanding that distance of, if you're here and the opposition's here, any person moves forward into that range is basically a do or die. And a lot of times, like James particularly does it. A couple of people on our team do it, where the balls, time for a crappy stick, man. The balls stay in central. Giving them the opportunity to throw high, throw low. It's not really threatening if the ball's coming down low and you're getting low with it. So say it's more of a, you're in a defensive position. That's okay. Or preferably, you're up here. This is your arm, and the ball's in that aggressive point. Even if you're not going to throw, it's making them think. But if you're in a situation where your ball's here, you can't throw from there unless you have the world's best finger flick chest pass in the world. So there are a couple of things that I've picked up on, especially then going into that line, those instances where certain players throughout in every position, and everyone did it at some point, dropping off where you're on that aggressive line. It's something that Sherrifs do really well, and I hope you've picked up a few things.